Okay, I think we can start right now. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome, everybody, to the second webinar of the GED team. My name is Uli Schof. I'm heading the Global Economic Dynamics project. And next to me is my colleague, Dr. Cora Jungblut. She's our Asian expert, so expert for Asian economies here. And she's also the co-author of the recent study we have just released and we want to talk about today. And as always, we want to give you a short briefing on the findings of our recent study, Asia's Rise in the New World Trade Order, in which we took a closer look at the effects of potential mega-regional trade agreements on Asian countries. And this is, so to speak, the second part of our GED study series, Effects of Mega-Regional Trade Agreements. This first part was on emerging markets in Latin America. This time it's on Asian economies and countries. And coming out in around 2 weeks will be the third part of the series dealing with the effects of mega-regional trade agreements on African countries, so also on emerging markets. Before I hand over to my colleague, just some quick intro for new participants who joined the webinar for the first time. The following presentation will be very short and concise. We try to do it in 10 to 15 minutes, or really briefing style. You can interact with us in two ways. If you want to speak to us using your microphone, please raise just your hand by pushing the corresponding button showing this kind of hand icon on the right side. And however, you can also just type in your question or comment anytime right into the chat and question window also on the right-hand side. And after the presentation, we will then go through the list of the questions and comments in the order they came in. Today, I think we have again a nice set of participants. We have just around 23 participants from 8 countries, of course European countries, a lot of European countries, but also from the United States and also from Africa participants. And so let's start. Cora, the floor is yours.
Well, thanks for that, Uli. I hope everybody can hear me. Otherwise, Uli, do you hear me? Just a brief check.
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. So I guess all the other participants will be able to hear me too. Well, welcome from my side too, and thanks for joining us this afternoon. As Uli said, we would like to present the key results of our study on the effects of mega-regional trade agreements on selected Asian countries. We will give an overview of the agreements we are talking about, check out the winners and losers in Asia, and look at what happens when several mega deals coexist at the same time. In the end, we will give a brief outlook on what this could mean for Asia's role in world trade beyond mere economic effects analyzed in our study. To start with, is the PPT working? Let me check. Yeah. To start with, one can say that Asia already is a major player in the world economy. Nearly 2/3 of the entire world population lives in Asia, forming a large potential consumer market. China, Japan, and India alone account for 22% of world GDP. Asia already accounts for nearly 1/3 of both world exports and imports, and so is a major player in world trade too. These shares have risen from 25% for exports and 22% for imports since 2001. So Asia has constantly gained heft in world trade in the last 15 years. Asia has also become an active player in the negotiations of regional trade agreements. What you see here is the visualization of trade agreements worldwide. The lines in the middle mark agreements between different world regions, like Asia and Europe, for example, and the lines outside mark agreements within a specific world region, with the green ellipse marking Asia. currently, there also are several so-called mega-regional trade deals under discussion. These tackle tariff and non-tariff barriers to trade, and in regard to the latter, go beyond many existent agreements. These mega-regional deals also aim at setting international standards for world trade in the 21st century. The Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, known under the acronym TTIP, which is currently being negotiated by the United States and the European Union, probably is the best known of these mega-regional trade deals. But there also are the TPP, RCEP, and FTAAP, which involve a number of Asian countries. So let's have a brief look at what's hiding behind these acronyms. First of all, we have the Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP, which could be called the United States pivot to Asia and trade, since it has been backed by the United States recently. It goes back to an initiative for economic integration by Brunei, Chile, New Zealand, and Singapore, which was started in 2005. The United States joined in 2008 and pushed for what became known as the TPP, with currently 12 members, only 5 of which are Asian countries. Brunei, Japan, Malaysia, Singapore, and Vietnam are currently part of the Trans-Pacific Partnership. The TPP does not include China, the world's major trading nation, which could be considered as a deliberate containment by the United States. Negotiations of the TPP were concluded in the end of 2015, last year, but ratification by the member states is still pending. The second deal, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, brings together the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, and its 6 major trading partners. 14 out of 16 members are Asian economies, including China and India. The RCEP thus drives intra-Asian integration but has no trans-Pacific dimension. Negotiations are scheduled for completion by the end of 2016. And finally, last but not least, there is the Free Trade Agreement of the Asia-Pacific, which includes the 21 members of the Asia-Pacific Economic Community, APEC, and due to its size and scope is the most inclusive agreement of the 3 we considered in our study. Both the US and China would be part of the FTAAP, whereas India, as a non-member of APEC, would not be part to it. China has favored the FTAAP recently, and under the leadership of Xi Jinping, the APEC members committed themselves to the implementation of the FTAAP at the APEC meeting in Beijing in 2014. However, there is no schedule for negotiations yet. Before we turn to the economic impact of these 3 mega-regional trade pacts on Asian economies, I would like to make just a few remarks on the effects of this kind of trade agreements in general. Trade agreements are expected to lead to trade creation among the member states and increase their national income. Non-member states, however, may suffer from trade diversion, since their exports may be displaced by trade between the member states. This effect may be mitigated by the member states increasing demand for final and intermediate inputs from other countries, thus increasing global demand in general. In particular, countries with close trade links to the member states may benefit from this increased demand for their products, even though they are not a member of the respective trade pact. So being outside a trade deal does not necessarily lead to negative economic effects. Let's now take a look at the income effects of TPP, RCEP, and FTAAP on selected Asian countries. Which Asian economies are the winners and which are the losers in terms of changes in real income? The TPP, which is marked by the blue beam in the chart, can be regarded as a more exclusive club, since those Asian economies which are part of it also benefit the most. You can see here Japan, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Singapore. We do not have data on Brunei, which is part of the TPP2 due to data restrictions, so we could not look into the changes for Brunei. China, as the world's largest trading nation, is not part of the TPP, as I said, and one can see here that China is negatively affected by the TPP, although only slightly. But one can assume, given the fact that China is one of the major players in world trade, its non-membership implies welfare losses for TPP members. So from an economic perspective, it does not really make sense to keep China out of the deal. The RCEP, marked by the gray beam, generates considerable income gains for most Asian economies, even those not involved in the agreement. The ASEAN initiative thus is more advantageous for economic integration within Asia, as one can see from this chart, especially in comparison to the TPP. The FTAAP, however, would be the most inclusive agreement and could be everybody's darling in terms of income gains, since it yields large benefits to members and non-members alike. Due to its scope and the inclusion of China and the United States, the FTAAP would result in substantial trade cost reductions that are imposed on a large part of world trade. So big welfare gains are the consequences. However, since negotiation on the FTAAP, the free trade area of the Asia-Pacific, have not yet started, and it is unclear if the FTAAP can be implemented in the near future, especially given the fact that China, the United States, and Russia would have to find common ground, it is more realistic that TPP and RCEP are implemented and coexist for some time. These two agreements could maybe even pave the way towards the FTAAP, which would then integrate India as well in the long run. We therefore also looked at the economic effect of a parallel scenario in which TPP and RCEP coexist. Our results show that most Asian economies, even if they are a member of only one of the agreements, benefit from the coexistence of both agreements, marked by the blue beam in the chart. For most countries, gains also are higher than with TPP only, and also there are no negative effects for the Asian economies considered here. So one can say the more Asian countries are involved in mega-regional trade deals, the more advantages are the economic effects on the region. As I mentioned in the beginning, there are not only Asian-Pacific deals in the making. The United States and the European Union are striving for the TTIP, which of course does not include any Asian country. The TTIP, marked by the blue beam in the chart, would negatively impact quite a few Asian economies. However, things would look quite differently if the TPP and RCEP were concluded parallel to the TTIP, which is marked by the orange beam in the chart. As you can see here, the negative effects of the TTIP could be mitigated, and most Asian countries would still be able to experience considerable welfare gains in a parallel scenario of these three mega-regional trade deals. To sum up, I would now like to give a brief outlook on the implications for Asia's role in world trade. Asia already is an important weight in world trade and could further drive trade integration in the 21st century. However, it is important that as many countries from the region as possible participate in mega-regional trade deals, which do not only generate welfare gains, which we looked at in the study, but also aim at setting international rules and standards for trade. In this regard, the coexistence of both the TPP and RCEP could be something like a counterweight to the TTIP as a West-only initiative. However, interests within Asia as a region are by no means uniform, of course, and most notoriously there are the historically grown tensions between China and Japan, which will not be easily solved in trade negotiations. Both countries, of course, want to participate in the rules-making process, but aside from both being members of the RCEP, have chosen different paths in Asia-Pacific integration, with Japan entering the TPP, while China favors the FTAAP, of course, because it is part of the FTAAP. And in the larger, more inclusive FTAAP, both countries could come together in the end. Also within Asia, we have countries at very different stages of development. These differences may be difficult to overcome. The TPP, which includes both developed and developing countries, may give an idea of if and how this could work in practice once the TPP has been ratified, of course. And finally, it is important to note that the participation in a trade agreement does not guarantee that the estimated welfare gains will materialize. The countries involved will have to make sure they can oblige with the regulations brought about by the respective deal. Consequently, structural reforms and adaptation processes might be necessary. We did not look at these specific issues in our studies, so that's the point where more in-depth research at the country level would be necessary in the long run. So if you're interested in more details regarding more Asian countries, you can also check out our fact sheets on our project websites and download facts from our calculation of income effects on Asian countries and their trade relations. As for now, I would like to thank you for your attention, and I think we still have quite some time left in case you have questions and comments. Of course, we would like to make this a more interactive webinar where we can engage with you and also hear your suggestions on our research, especially when you come from the countries we are dealing with here. We would be delighted to have, well, kind of insider approach to the issue of mega-regional trade agreements. So thank you for that, and now we're looking forward to your comments and questions.